Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome. We are continuing down the Rabbit's Bunny Trail, and here we go. We're gonna have a short introduction and jump right into this bad boy.
Emily exhaled and walked past me without making eye contact. "Come on, kid." "What makes you think I want to go?" I said. Annie grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the house.
You want to go?
I definitely wanted to go. Not only because Annie was the first girl I'd ever kissed, but also because of what Emily had been talking about in the kitchen. The idea of a mysterious secret game called Rabbits.
Yep. It's one of those things where if you pique somebody's interest at the right moment, at the right time, boom, you've got it.
This felt different. This was something big, something grown up. Holding Annie's hand as she pulled me out to the old blue and white Chevy truck with the giant knobby tires took me right back to the moment she had kissed me.
Yeah, that sounds very early 90s, late 80s. The whole big, well, you still get the big monster trucks every now and then, but the 90s were part of the 90s was that whole monster truck era. Era, that's the word I'm looking for, not era.
Annie Connors was unconventionally pretty. Her eyes were just a bit too far apart, and her hair was
Yep, the drumstick, the drumstick drop. Good thing I have two. But yeah, that's me. I tend to be drawn to unconventionally attractive people. They're not, in my opinion, ugly or hideous. They just don't fit the norm.
extremely wavy and chaotic, but I found her beautiful, with a brash, powerful confidence that was both exciting and incredibly frightening. A few weeks after my 13th birthday, our families were together celebrating Thanksgiving. Annie and I had been sent downstairs to dig up a game called Trivial Pursuit.
Hey, the Trivial Pursuit, that's a great game. It's even fun when you get a bunch of people that are good at it that are also intoxicated.
On our way to the storage room where we kept our old games, Annie suddenly yanked me over to the furnace next to my makeshift bedroom in our otherwise entirely unfinished basement. Matter-of-factly pressed her body against mine, took my face in her hands, and kissed me.
The first, you've got to respect a woman that knows what she wants.
She tasted like grape gummy worms.
I've had a first kiss in my life, and there are other things that I remember, but the taste on the mouth, no. But yeah, I remember reading this when I was reading the novel, and just almost falling out of my chair laughing.
It was incredible. "Well?" she'd asked after the kiss. I couldn't speak, but I'm pretty sure my eyes answered with a resounding, "Holy shit."
All right. Yeah.
Wow. "Get in."
Yeah.
Emily was already inside the truck, picking out a cassette for the drive. I crawled up into the cab, making sure I didn't sit too close to Emily. Annie Connors was beautiful and mysterious enough. Emily was a whole other world.
That's interesting. You gotta pick one.
Hurry up. It's almost time. Emily had the big truck moving before Annie had shut the door. I didn't know much about cars, but the truck was at least a decade old. The ashtray beneath the stereo was overflowing with a blend of white and orange cigarette butts.
Yeah, yep. That's definitely Gen X memories right there.
On the floor, an old salt and vinegar chip bag sat next to an empty bottle of Sprite, a few salty shards of greenish-white chips visible against the foil inside. The store's open 24 hours, I said, realizing as I was saying it that Emily knew that.
Yeah, me and my wife do that to each other all the time. Say something that is just insanely obvious.
Everybody knew that. Emily didn't answer. She just popped a cassette into the stereo with a mechanical whir and click, and a series of tiny blue and pink lights from the stereo lit up the cab.
Yeah, I used to have a 96 Nissan four-wheel drive. That the stereo in that, when you put a cassette in it, the little LED lights on it at night would just blow up the cab, or at least that's what it felt like.
Of the truck. Then Tori Amos began singing Crucify, and Emily guided the huge truck down the long, winding driveway and out onto the street.
I still wonder how hard it would be to make this a live-action movie. You could do more with, like, animation. You could have more of the effects and stuff render better, because in this day and age, they're going to want to CG it all, so just do it as an animation. But if you're to do it live action, take your time, do practical effects, you could probably do a pretty badass movie.
We passed the store without stopping. Emily didn't even slow down. I remained silent. I didn't want to open my mouth and risk saying something that might affect what was happening.
Which is probably a good call at this point.
This was an adventure. My first wild hair-up-your-ass adventure. And there was no way I was going to risk saying anything to fuck it up.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Emily pulled a pack of cigarettes from beneath the visor and took her hands off the wheel to light one up. Without a word from her sister, Annie reached across my lap and grabbed the steering wheel.
Yeah, did that plenty of times with my father when I was growing up. My father smoked all the way up until my first wife died from colon cancer. Then her dying from colon cancer convinced him to stop smoking. It's just weird. Well, not weird. It's just how things like that affect people. He really liked my first wife, and they would pal around together. So, yeah, when she died from colon cancer, he quit smoking.
Emily and Annie were in perfect sync. Annie steered for her.
I think I forgot to mention that I did that. I would steer. He would go light a cigarette, and it was my job to reach over and keep the truck on the roadway to lit a cigarette. I think I forgot to mention that. I think I got off on a tangent.
Her sister, staring ahead at the road, keeping the truck between the lines with the focus of a brain surgeon or air traffic controller, as if driving between those lines was the only thing keeping the world spinning.
I have felt like that myself. There are times I've been inebriated and probably shouldn't have been behind the wheel of a car, and had that kind of focus driving home.
We drove for another 7 minutes or so before Emily took the wheel and turned onto an old logging road. A minute later, she pulled over onto the unpaved shoulder. "There's nothing up here but the Peterman house," I said. But there might be some kids at the gravel pits. If I showed up at the gravel pits with Emily and Annie Connors, I'd be a hero tomorrow at school. Emily shushed me as she turned on the cabin light and pulled a small journal from her purse. "You sure this is the road?" Annie asked. "Kay's right. It's just the Petermans up there."
And we will find out more about the Petermans and the road and the gravel pit and the truck and the kids and everybody being heroes or not heroes in our next video. So, take care. Be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?